this is a song, this is a great tune. This is, of course, I heard it through the grapevine. And it's a song I've wrestled with doing a lesson on for years and just have been not really sure what path to take with it. There are so many different things we could do with it. Could turn it into a killer instrumental, as you've seen some people do on YouTube, and that's a little of what's prevented me from getting to a lesson on it, because I thought, you know, if I'm going to do a lesson on this, it's going to be this rock'em sock'em razzle dazzle guitar instrumental thing, and I didn't really want to take the time to get into that. But due to a lot of requests lately at TotallyGuitars on this, I started rethinking the whole thing and thinking, you know, let's just get it started and see what happens. It's kind of like how we started TG. It was like if we'd spent 5 years planning it, it never would have happened. Instead, we just turned on the switch and saw where it went. So I'm going to do that with this lesson, kind of a little bit of the pioneering spirit. And well, first we're going to talk about, well, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the song because this is fascinating. It was first recorded, well, this is all part of Gordy's Motown label, and in 1960, Barry had their first hit with Barrett Strong's vocal part on Money. Do 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 do. Later covered by the Beatles, which helped make it even bigger. Well, Barrett Strong went on to started writing a lot of songs, and over the next few years collaborated a lot with a producer and another co-writer there. Barrett did mostly lyrics, and Norman Whitfield, and they came up with some great tunes later. Papa Was a Rolling Stone, Smiling Faces, Just My Imagination, Smiling Some Faces Sometimes, not to be confused with Traffic or Blood, Sweat and Tears, or anyway. Ball of Confusion. Anyway, these guys turned out some great hits for bands like the Temptations and the Miracles and Gladys Knight, who they kind of, after they did a recording of this with Smokey and the Miracles, and weren't all too impressed with it, and kind of thought it just doesn't have the kick we needed. And so Barry sent Barrett and Norman back to kind of revamp it, and they turned it into, they made it a little more mysterious and had Marvin Gaye work on it with the Funk Brothers, recording in Motown there. And this version Barry didn't like. And so he said, nah, let's, and so they released Gladys Knight's version. Well, actually, it's sort of in the other order, but they did it with Gladys Knight, and then that became sort of a hit in September, I believe, of 1967. But right around that same time, Marvin Gaye they'd done a version with Marvin Gaye, and that was really the one that Norman and Barrett Strong thought would be good. But Berry Gordy didn't want to release like the same song done by a different band. So they just popped it on as a filler track on his album In the Groove in 1968. And due to popular radio demand, DJs just kept playing the heck out of it, and it got released and became pretty much Motown's biggest hit. Well, up until the time it was, and great tune for Marvin. Anyway, what we're going to do in this, as we progress through this, is I've got tablature to, there are so many variables as to what you can do with this song, and it can be done fairly simply. It does have to be kind of percussive, and so that's a lot of, as we progress through here, we'll be looking at the measures where I'm kind of getting a little bit of percussion going on down here. But I really just want to get started with the basic riff. So I'm in drop D tuning. Now, Marvin's version was recorded a half step higher than this. It was in E flat, and it sort of revolves around E flat minor, but it's blues. So the song uses, it's got a kind of Dorian sound because it's going from a minor chord to a major chord, major 4. Anyway, it just has all kinds of great things going on with it. We'll start with just the opening that has these parallel fifths, and then the second half of the introduction has this keyboard part that can be played a couple of different ways. Or, and then we'll work that is just modified a little bit as it gets into the verse, this D minor to G thing that's happening right there. We will be talking about keeping a steady pounding of bass notes as quarter notes, although there are times when it would sound really good to do it as eighths. we will, as it evolves, we'll talk about little heavier bass parts. What else am I going to tell you about this? We'll look at the chord shapes in just a minute, or in an upcoming segment. We will probably, in Marvin's version, after the second chorus, each chorus is followed with this little backing vocal thing that we'll be doing on the guitar. Now, after the second chorus, there's a cool little, the orchestra kind of comes in. And we might tackle something. I'm not sure if I this is really bad. I should not hint at this. It might go something like this. So I might throw in a little solo if I decide to pursue that and work it out. But that's sort of a little, man, way too much information for now. Okay, I think that is my preliminary thoughts on this, but we're going to spill this out over, I don't know how long, and I'll just see how it evolves. But take a look at the tab that I have together and get started on that. Little parallel fifths going on with just the bass pounding down there. Could be done further up the neck. It could be done on the opposite, on the fourth and fifth strings. It'll squeak too much. Nah, I don't like that. Could be done inverted. So tackle some of those things before you look at the next segment and see what you can come up with if you can get the hang of keeping your thumb pounding those bass notes down on the beats and that little melody. Just fifths, a D and an A, down here, up the minor third and then back, and then up that minor third and down another half step, and back to the D and the A. So there we have the intro, or at least the first two measures of the intro. The first, let me think. Yeah, that's two measures of the intro. No, that's four measures of the intro, because then we're going to bring in the chords. Okay, stay tuned, and let's hope for the best. Well, let's start with the intro, because it's actually about the easiest part of the whole thing. We're going to get this steady pounding going on the open D, and we just need a power chord down here, a D power chord consisting of the open D and the A, and on the third string, second fret, and then we have to move this power chord up 3 frets and back. Now that's not a very efficient way to finger it, what I just did right there. But what I did was I kind of went into power chord shape here with my left hand and just played as if I was playing the open D with my first finger, but really bad plan. What we want to do when we're playing a power chord that includes an open note is use your first finger for the fifth of the chord. So again, a power chord in this case is a D and an A, a root and a fifth of D chords. So we're going to have a D going to an F and to an E power chord in the first two measures. So what we want to do, fingering wise, is use your first finger for this and then use your second and fourth for the F power chord, so that you can play that without sliding around. That's what in the last segment I talked about, maybe playing it as power chords up here. But too squeaky. The verse starts pretty much like the last little part of the chorus, and you have the choice, same deal, of playing the D minor and the G down here, and then we're going to need an A7 following that if you play it down in first position, that A7, you could just go to a standard A7 position with your second and third fingers. If you're playing it up around the 5th fret, you could follow the tab and play the D minors and the Gs up here, and then I'd go to my A7 with just these 3 strings, the second, a D shape on the second, third, and fourth strings at the 5th fret. And then we're going to need our G7 chord, and this, a standard G7 in standard tuning would look like this, but because of the drop D tuning, we need to play the 6th string at the 5th fret. So this is how we're going to be playing our G7 chords in this song. We're also going to need some D7 chords. Not until the chorus, but I will, later on we're going to need a D7 chord. And the best way to play the D7s in this song is using the C7 shape, a whole step moved up to the 3rd fret and adding your 4th finger to to what would create a seventh, and we can use all 5 bottom strings in this, and it'll be our D7. A lot of times I wouldn't have my D on here. I may just play it with these 3 fingers because I'm going to be doing a lot of grabbing of those 3 strings and hitting the low D in the bass. And then we're going to have some quick changes back and forth from the D to the D7 to G7 with your 3 fingers on the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th strings, and for the G and the 6th string in the bass on both of them. G7 looking like this and the D7 looking like this.